Hey everyone, Pugs here with 3 new reviews for y'all yet again. That's right, today I'm covering another trio of episodes, this time the 84 trio, Spy Buddies, Boat Smart, and Good Ol Whatshisname. Man, Season 5 was loving these episode trios. Unfortunately, my script writing energy does not. But I got this out anyways, just shows my love of the craft, I suppose. And before I get into starting to review these 3 episodes, I've just gotta say thank you to everyone who's watching this video today, because you're all so very appreciated. And with that, let's just get right into it. So I've actually been very excited to review Spy Buddies, because I've always loved this episode. Yeah, I'm saying it right from jump, but I've always loved this one from beginning to end, and I believe it's truly underrated. And I can only say that because I've never seen anyone talking about this one. From what I've seen on the forum, people at least seem to agree with me in general that this episode is pretty good, if not great. I mean, my opinions on this one are a little more positive than that, but I like to start with some common ground, you know? So, Spy Buddies already starts off strong for me with a gorgeous background shot of the Krusty Krab. Y'all know I love me some gorgeous background shots. And then, I don't know how to explain this, but like the sound design in this very beginning scene is just really good. I don't know, it sets the mood. And I love how we're already starting this episode with some questions such as, what the hell is that plankton? And how does he know the codes? These questions are, of course, addressed basically immediately, as when SpongeBob turns the light on, it's revealed that the silhouette is actually Mr. Krabs. Given what we learn at the very end of this episode, this fake-out is pretty genius foreshadowing. We then get a funny gag with Squidward appearing very briefly just so he can leave when Mr. Krabs suggests extra work. This gag walked so the famous one in Greasy Buffoons could run. SpongeBob's enthusiasm about being a super secret spy is super cute. I mean, really, this episode takes some pages from the book of Season 1 and makes SpongeBob and Patrick really stinking cute during the first few minutes. And I love that we get the name of this episode from the duo's happy shouting, and their whispering is also adorable. From this first minute or so, I already have a great feeling about where this episode will be going, and all of the spoofs and parodies and homages we see here help immensely. I love the James Bond spoof with Patrick looking through the straw, and really, that's another reason I love this episode, the sheer vibes it exudes. We get all kinds of spy cliches and tropes and homages, and not only that, but the music is on point, the visuals are great, and the atmosphere is palpable. When Mr. Krabs pulled out that exploding Krabby Patty, my mind instantly went to Mission Impossible, which is a movie franchise that I love. I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but I love action movies. A lot. Which is yet another reason why I like this episode. Anyway, back to the self-destructing Krabby Patty. SpongeBob and Patrick's panic after hearing the message is hilarious, as is the solution they come up with. I also love that we get some Sandy inclusion in this episode, being the supplier of their cool spy gadgets. Well, unwitting supplier, since Patrick knocks her ass out with her own machine. Patrick is honestly really good in this episode. I don't mind Patrick being dumb, but I can't help but praise when he's not a complete idiot too. SpongeBob and Patrick spying on Plankton is just a fun way to spend these next few minutes of the episode. I love all the basic errands Plankton has to run. It kind of retroactively adds depth both to his character and to others, because if Plankton has to do such everyday errands, everyone else must too. The way that Plankton's size is played with in this episode is great too, and makes for some fun gags, like the magnifying glass. For the sake of review length, I won't get into all the gags here, but this segment of 3 minutes really doesn't let up for a second, and I love it. We then go back to the very clear spoofing as SpongeBob says they have to find a complicated way to get inside the chum bucket because they're spies. Once Plankton finds the two, I like the subversion with him thinking that SpongeBob and Patrick actually want to eat at the chum bucket. His excitement at getting a customer is actually pretty cute. And then I love how this segment with the laser pans malfunctioning basically uses toilet humor, but it's not disgusting about it. See, toilet humor can be funny when you do it right. Speaking of this segment, there's some great voice work from Bill Fagerbacke here, as per usual. And then, of course, we get my favorite gag with things randomly exploding as the chum bucket completely blows up. This is like the third thing to blow up in this episode, and I love it. Moving on, when Plankton brings his war blimp to the Krusty Krab, I love the interaction between Squidward and Mr. Krabs that we get. Mr. Krabs' cataract surgery comment is pretty funny, and then Squidward's "it's that time of the month." Ooh boy, that's a joke for the ages right there. Now, I really do think that this was a mere reference to Mr. Krabs' earlier comment about how Plankton hadn't tried to steal the formula in over a month, which implies that he does this kind of thing monthly, but I also cannot deny that it does sound like a metaphor for a certain monthly occurrence for people with uteri. Anyway, Squidward's running off to his battle station was hilarious and another great use of toilet humor in this episode. For someone who doesn't find toilet humor very funny, I'm honestly impressed by how good this episode is at using it. The final battle between Mr. Krabs and Plankton is really fun to watch, and I love how once Patrick gets shot through the blimp, we get that wonderful end of episode chaos with the blimp crashing into the Krusty Krab. And then we have the absolute best part of this episode, the last couple minutes, which are filled with some amazing and glorious spy movie cliches. This whole episode is really just a parody of the Mission Impossible movies with a side of James Bond, let's be real. It's even funnier to watch after watching Mission Impossible Fallout. Anyway, so plot twist. Plankton was Mr. Krabs the whole time, and Mr. Krabs was actually Plankton, in the same robot as Imitation Krabs. I like how this was foreshadowed at the very beginning of the episode, and I also like to think about how Mr. Krabs and Plankton had assumed each other's places for the entirety of this episode, which lends a whole new context to the scenes we had seen of them earlier. Plankton shopping for baby clothes becomes Mr. Krabs embarrassing Plankton. Mr. Krabs keeping tabs on Plankton and wondering about his plan becomes Plankton wondering what Mr. Krabs is up to. It just makes the entire episode more enjoyable to rewatch. The banter between Mr. Krabs and Plankton is amazing, and I love how Mr. Krabs just brushes over everything, being like, yeah, the events are too elaborate to explain, so just roll with it. And we do. It's fun to imagine how both sides prepared anyway. And I love when Mr. Krabs and Plankton have this quasi-friendly relationship like this, especially with Plankton's whole "the usual" wager, which holds a host of implications. This ending is excellent, but the episode isn't done yet. To the wonderful tune of Clownfish Capers, we get one of my favorite endings to a SpongeBob SquarePants episode with a costume-ripping, identity-revealing party of chaos. And I love how SpongeBob just rips off the real Squidward's face, and then things just get weirder with a Sandy cameo, followed by a whole bunch of costume ripping that I won't give the play-by-play of, even though I'm sure I'd be a good announcer. And then the episode ends with the unexplained appearance of two Patricks laughing, and I love it. It's hilarious, it's genius, and I love it. Spy Buddies is definitely one of the best episodes I've reviewed in a while in terms of pure comedic value and amusement. Probably the best since Mrs. Puff You're Fired, being completely honest. It's just excellent, and I have nothing even remotely bad to say about it. It uses a variety of different types of humor, and the atmosphere of this episode is great, and I love its parodies and homages. And like I just got through talking about, the ending of this episode is fantastic. Truly an episode that is perfect for my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.5 out of 10. The next episode in the 84 trio is a short one, Boat Smarts, and hoo boy. Okay, full disclosure, I actually hadn't seen this episode in over 5 years before rewatching it for the purposes of reviewing it last year, and then I just rewatched it the other day, since I've just been going through all my DVDs while I've been in the process of packing and unpacking while I'm in the process of moving, so now seasons 5 and 6 are very fresh on my mind, which is a good thing for these reviews. But all of that is besides the point. The point I'm making is that I had avoided watching Boat Smarts for so long because once upon a time in the early to mid-2010s I was young and impressionable and I had unfortunate choices in YouTubers who reviewed cartoons. I think that's enough said. And I think that's why I'd consider this episode to be infamous, or at least it used to be. As those YouTubers have become less popular, some of the formerly infamous episodes have kind of faded into the background, and I think this episode is one of them. Now that this episode is fresh on my mind, I can say right now that I feel a lot differently about it than I used to, so let's discuss. I like the setup of this episode being a safe driving film. The filters over the episode really help to set the mood, along with Mrs. Puff's narration. And I also really like how this episode is segmented into these chapters. Reminds me of Krusty Krab training video, aka my favorite episode of all time, in case you guys forgot, so that's a pretty good association for an episode to have. And while I'm here, no, I will not call this episode a ripoff of Krusty Krab training video for using a kind of similar concept. Plenty of episodes have similar concepts. Hell, you guys have heard me point these things out time and time again. Being a ripoff means a lot more than just having a similar plot. There's only one episode in this entire show that I would even think of calling a ripoff, and we're a long ways away from that. And that's all I'll say on this subject. Today at least. The egregiously long acronym for the sponsors of the video is funny, and I love that there's a whole organization dedicating to stopping SpongeBob from operating a boat. Mans is a menace, clearly. I love that the driver with the boat smart is Squidward, because that means we get some fun Squidward and SpongeBob interactions during the course of this short episode. I also don't think we've ever seen Squidward driving before this, since he typically uses his reclined bike or just walks, so it's fun to see him do it here. Though it's funny that I say that because literally as I'm writing this script, Boating Buddies is playing on the TV in the background, so yeah, Squidward doesn't drive that much. Now, finally talking about the first segment beyond the introduction of tire pressure, we get a pretty clear picture of what this episode is going to consist of. Squidward having boat smarts above and beyond the norm, and then SpongeBob having the complete opposite of that, followed by SpongeBob's lack of boat smarts screwing over Squidward in some capacity. The formula of this episode is basic, which is good for a 4-minute long episode like this, and I also believe that this basic formula is what divides people. The continued gags with this same basic formula are what make people declare this episode to be a part of the whole Squidward torture porn problem. Y'all y'all already know what I think about that label. And if you don't know, let me sum up my feelings in 2 words. It's bullshit. So, not even getting into the asinine idea that this episode is a Squidward torture porn, I just gotta say that I think that everyone who thinks that these gags are insufferable needs to take a chill pill, perhaps. Like, yes, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but please just unclench for a second. For me, I was chuckling and laughing all throughout this episode. The tire gag had great comedic timing, the seatbelt gag was absolutely hilarious and also had great comedic timing, and the mirror gag was just too funny, with Squidward's reaction and the crash test footage. The humor in this episode isn't only with the gags involving Squidward. Like I said before, Mrs. Puff is a great narrator in this episode, and all of her little comments add to the gags nicely. I like the way she calls SpongeBob in the mirror segment a degenerate boater. That was pretty funny and unexpected, and voice acted very well. And I say this ignoring the unfortunate context surrounding the word degenerate. And I love the part where SpongeBob's driving against traffic and everyone just hums at him angrily. I just love SpongeBob's complete lack of care and blank looks in this episode. Sometimes I like to imagine that SpongeBob drives horribly on purpose, and it kind of makes me laugh. You know, now that I've been speaking of this episode, and now that I've rewatched it recently, I've realized that I need to see Mrs. Puff and Squidward interact legitimately. The ending of this episode, with SpongeBob delivering that little zinger and the two of them looking at each other in the camera, is just excellent. I remember back during all the negative press about this episode, certain people got mad at the last line. Looks like you guys forgot your boat smart. And honestly, I just think that the humor was lost on them, just like it was lost on me for the longest time. Now that we've finally made it to season 5, I'm getting increasingly excited to revisit some infamous episodes like this one. Because how much did I actually dislike these episodes, and how much was I just going with the flow? With this episode, it's clear that I didn't really consider it on my own, because now that I've rewatched it a couple times, I can see how good of an episode it is. I legitimately have no issue with it whatsoever, and it works perfectly as a short. A major step up from the last 4-minute short, Rise and Shine. And so in one of the biggest tear jumps between my old written reviews from 2018 to today, Boat Smarts is being put in my great tier with a score of 8.5 out of 10, up 5 tiers from my 2018 review, which landed it in bad. Amazing what a new perspective can do, ain't it? For the last episode of the 84 trio, we've got Good Ol Whatshisname. So, fun fact that is unrelated to literally any of my opinions about this episode, it took me the longest time to realize that this episode's title says what's his name. See, as a kid, I always skimmed over the word and basically read it as washing machine. I wish I was joking. Anyway, this is yet another one of those episodes that I thought people liked more than they actually do, or at least I'm basing this on what I saw in the forum. I'm kind of shocked by how lowly this episode was rated, and with people calling it boring as well. I'm gonna have to disagree with all of that, so let's talk about it. I like that in this episode we're back to exploring the Krusty Krabs' business practices, this time with a crash course in hospitality. The setup for this episode is interesting, and the second Mr. Krabs mentions a contest, I start thinking it's starting to sound a lot like Employee of the Month. Squidward's immediate interest in competing once a vacation is on the line is what leads him to be super cocky about the competition, delusionally so. Like, boy, you ain't the face of this Krusty Krab, SpongeBob is, even if he is the cook. I love the way the very first customer Squidward talks to calls him out on his bullshit real quick. Like, yeah, Squidward, they know you alright. No, you ain't about that customer service life. The way Squidward just stuffs SpongeBob in the cash register is hilarious and unexpected. Even better is when Squidward just shoots SpongeBob out the mustard holder into the horizon. I also really love SpongeBob in this episode because he's such a little ray of sunshine and cuteness, just the way I like him. I love how he has a whole book of the customers of the Krusty Krab and why I love them. That's absolutely adorable. This episode doesn't truly pick up, although I do enjoy the 3 or so minutes before this point, until we get to the namesake of this episode, the mystery fish. Seeing Squidward being mean to SpongeBob in pursuit of the prize means that I am so looking forward to when universal justice is inevitably dealt, and while I wait, I simply enjoy the ride. This customer would so be me if some random guy came up to me asking for my name for no reason. Like, boy, you're not getting anything from me. So, I have a funny story for you all that relates to this actually, so let me put my tangent sticker up there. During my 3rd year of college, I was walking back to my place and some Mormon or whatever came up to me asking all these questions about where I'm at with religion and blah blah blah, and he asked my name, so of course I lied about it. So that's your Pugs pro tip of the day. Some random person starts talking to you on the street and you're too polite or self-conscious to ignore them. If/when they ask for your name, simply lie. I always have a name ready to go so it doesn't seem fake. Okay, getting back on topic now. I love the mystery customer's energy, yelling at Squidward for asking his name and demanding to be left alone. Of course, Squidward won't give up that easy, not when a vacation is on the line. The whole part where Squidward spills the soda on the guy has perfect comedic timing to me, and then I love how it escalates to Squidward literally stealing the guy's wallet. From there, we get a really entertaining chase scene, which I like the way that grass skirt chase cuts to Spongemonger here. I thought that was cool. The way this cop enters the scene is great. I love how he starts chasing him because of Squidward running a stop sign, and then how he finds out that Squidward is a double offender. Bill Fagerbaki did a good job voicing that cop. I loved his righteous indignation. And for anyone else who's surprised that it is in fact Bill Fagerbaki voicing the cop, yep, that's him. If you can't hear it, try revisiting Patrick Smartpants. I think the cop voice sounds pretty similar to Smart Patrick. And then I love the reveal that the mystery guy's name is literally What's It To Ya. That is so clever and genius, and Squidward's reaction is hilarious. And the episode doesn't just stop there with the great reveals, because then we learned that the prize Squidward literally went to jail for, it was never a vacation, not at all. It was merely the brochure. Because of course it was. That's Mr. Krabs for you, cheapskate extraordinaire. Squidward flipping out about it is great because what else is there to do? Of course, we gotta get one last gag in, as it turns out Squidward's cellmate is Patrick, who hilariously calls back to the Parcheesi game Squidward wanted to play on his vacation. The way Squidward just falls apart is absolutely hilarious, and a great ending to this great episode. There really isn't much for me to say here that in this last bit of the review. I enjoyed this episode a lot, and I find it to be hilarious. I personally don't see where it's boring, but sometimes people just see things differently, I suppose. Whatever the case, this episode definitely belongs in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.2 out of 10. As always, gotta end this video with some closing thoughts of mine. I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of reviewing. I mean, did y'all see the tangents in this video? I mean, tangents are what I'm known for. Something I like about these short episodes is how they're forced to get to the point. Like with Good Ol Whatshisname, I feel like we're pushed into the plot very quickly, and the plot itself is just perfect for a short episode. I think that's where the first trio of episodes made its mistakes. The plots and episodes didn't mesh with their short runtime. Waiting could have very well been the 4-minute episode, and Rise and Shine, while I prefer its short length, could have been the 7-minute one. Just food for thought. I feel like Season 5 and Season 6 of SpongeBob SquarePants make for exceptionally good background television. This isn't something I've had to note yet, but you can get a sneak peek of it here. During these seasons of the show, there are a number of episodes that are kind of slower in tone than the usual SpongeBob SquarePants fare. This is done to varying effectiveness, but that makes them great background episodes because even if you miss some parts of the episode, you can still follow it just fine. That's why I can hardly understand when people put shows like freaking Game of Thrones on as background television. I use that show as an example because I've been watching it for the first time and literally there's so much shit to keep track of. It's rewarding, but it's a lot of mental energy to expend when watching television. I think it's funny that I, as a SpongeBob reviewer, am now talking about Game of Thrones. I guess that should ensure that this episode isn't wrongfully marked as for kids, correct? Well, that and all the cursing I do, like a sailor. Anyway, this is the last trio for a little bit. Don't worry, Season 5 still has one more episode trio to give us, but not for a couple weeks, I think. I could fact check this instead of making myself look like an idiot on the internet, but that would indeed be a lot of work. Okay, I'm rambling now, so let me just go ahead and end the episode here, and I'll see y'all in the next review.